Hello, a very, very good day to you. I hope you had yourself an amazing, amazing Thursday. It is the 22nd of August 2024, 1910 East African time, and this is the Black Hot Fire Network, the media of the 21st century, the Black Wing Media. And of course, I'm here to tell you about each and everything that was making headlines in Africa today. Have news from all over Africa. And of course, just to keep you on the know on what has been happening in this uh, beautiful continent of ours. So we're going to be looking at DRC with a lot really happening in the DRC. Uh, a lot has been happening in the DRC over the past couple of days, from the monkeypox that we're going to be talking about to a recent boat accident. So not so good things have been happening there. So we're going to be looking at that. And there's also news from all over Africa. We are going to be looking at Uganda. And at least it's positive news from Uganda, because in Uganda they have they're seeking to explore two new regions. There are two new regions that they have discovered and that they are seeking to explore in terms of oil, two new oil regions. So we're going to be looking at that. Apart from that, we're going to be looking at the Sahel, which wrote a letter to the Security Council and demanded that the Security Council must call out Ukraine's support for terrorism. So those are among the things that we're going to be looking about. There is a lot that has been happening in Africa, and we never had the show yesterday, so of course I have a lot to report on. I hope you stay with me. You can talk to me on all our social media platforms at the Black Hot Fire Network, the Black Hot Fire Radio. You can tell me where you're watching from, and of course, how is your day taking you? So let us start with Uganda, where Uganda has started exploring two new regions, oil regions.
Uganda is exploring for oil in two new regions. Ruth Nankabirwa, the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, made the announcement on Wednesday. She told journalists that her ministry is conducting preliminary exploration studies in the Moroto Dam basin in the country's east to assess its hydrocarbon potential. According to Nankabirwa, early results suggest the potential for commercial oil and gas in the Moroto Dam basin. Similar surveys have started in the Kyoga Basin, central Uganda, with plans to initiate studies in the Hoima Basin, which is in western Uganda. The country's current petroleum resources stand at 6.5 billion barrels, with 1.5 billion recoverable. Speaking in Kampala at the media briefing on the developments in Uganda's oil and gas sector, the energy minister listed the objectives of the exploration efforts: increase Uganda's petroleum reserves, extend production beyond 25 years, and enhance the viability of midstream projects such as the East African Crude Oil Pipeline (ECAP). Total Energy's ECAP project includes the drilling of 419 wells in western Uganda and the construction.
But now that is where the problem comes in. Even as Uganda is discovering new oil, if you look at the person who's drilling the oil, it's Total Energies. Total is one of the companies that has been involved in drilling oil. So that means that the oil is most probably 80-90% not going to benefit the people of Uganda, because the same companies that have been drilling oil over and over for in Africa, it is the same company that has been drilling oil in Nigeria, the same company that has been, and they're exploitive companies, and the deals that they sign with countries are deals that do not benefit the original producers.
Of a 1,443-kilometer heated pipeline linking the Lake Albert deposits to the Tanzanian coast on the Indian Ocean. It is the subject of a $10 billion investment agreement with Uganda, Tanzania, and China's CNOOC. As Uganda moves closer to the production phase, authorities have banked on the oil and gas sector to drive the country's economic development. The Petroleum Authority of Uganda has awarded contracts valued at $7.2 billion. Minister Ruth Nankabirwa highlighted that 41% of all contracts were allocated to Ugandan companies.
Yeah, so that is Uganda discovering new oil, I would say oil wells, in two new regions, where the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, her name is Ruth Nankabirwa, announced yesterday. She said that her ministry was conducting preliminary exploration studies in the Moroto Kadam Basin, that is in the east, to assess the hydrocarbon potential. So according to her, Early results are suggesting the potential of there being commercial oil and gas in the Morotoka Dam Basin. There are similar surveys that are being done in another area called the Kyoga Basin, that is in the center, with plans to initiate studies even in the Hoima Basin, which is in western Uganda. The country's current petroleum resources at around 6.5 million barrels, and if they discover oil, if the oil is actually confirmed in the new regions, then that is going to see Uganda as a big oil producer in Africa. So the energy minister said that they are looking into adding the country's total oil production because she believes that the country has undiscovered wells still. It has undiscovered oil wells. However, as I had mentioned, Total Energies is the one that is responsible for the drilling of the 419 wells that we have in western Uganda. The drilling is under what they call the East African Crude Oil Pipeline. It's the EOCOP, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline. So Total Energies EOCOP project has been happening in Uganda, where they have been drilling about 419 wells in western Uganda, and they have constructed a 1,440 kilometer heated pipeline that links Lake Albert to Tanzanian coast of the Indian Ocean. They stopped using the Kenyan coast, so the Uganda loads its oil from Tanzania. There's a pipeline built by Total Energies that links the Lake Albert to the Indian Ocean. So that would see Uganda as one of the biggest producers of oil in Africa if they can actually, if the projections that they have, that there might be oil, especially in the western, not the central and the eastern region of the two basins that I've mentioned, then, however, that is still, it's still would not benefit the Ugandan people. I'll say again, because you just look at the people drilling the oil in Uganda and you look at, they're the same people who've been drilling oil all over Africa. They've been drilling oil in Nigeria, they've been drilling oil in so many other places, and the same has not benefited the people. So it would be hard for me to see the people benefiting, the Ugandan people benefiting from something that other countries where similar operations have happened never benefited. So I'm having trouble seeing how the Ugandan people are going to benefit, especially in the current financial architecture that we have in Africa, where even as oil mineral rich countries are always left with peanuts, while the people who drill, exploit, let me use the word exploit the minerals, end up being the ones benefiting in most of the cases. That is how it's always. And let us now look at the Sahel, where the Sahel, the Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger wrote a letter to the Security Council because they do believe that Ukraine has been financing terrorism in that region. And they wrote to the council requesting that the council must call out, not requesting, but demanding that the council call out Ukraine for supporting, enabling terrorism in that region. I'm looking for that video so that I can share it with you, so that you can see the story that I'm talking about. They say that the Security Council must call out Ukraine for, I hate it.
Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have petitioned the President of the UN Security Council to denounce what they call the Ukrainian government's open support for international terrorism in the Sahel. A letter dated August 19th and signed by the envoys to the UN of the three Sahelian countries was released on Tuesday. The move follows recent comments by Ukrainian officials who said that Kiev had played a role in attacks by separatist rebels in Tinzawatan, northeastern Mali. In late July, many Malian soldiers and their Russian instructors were killed in the clashes. The foreign ministers of the Alliance of the Sahel States, IOS countries, are urging the Security Council to act to prevent new subversive and destabilizing actions. They say the comments by Ukrainian officials shed light on the role some states play in the expansion of terrorism in the Sahel. The United Nations Charter gives the Security Council primary responsibility for maintaining international peace and security.
So that is the Sahel calling out. It demanded that the Security Council must. So it wrote a joint letter. The three countries wrote a joint letter, that is Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, petitioning the president of the UN Security Council to denounce what they are calling Ukrainian's government's open support for international terrorism in the Sahel. So the letter was dated August 19, and it was signed by the envoys to the UN of the three Sahelian countries, and it was released yesterday. So this comes after recent comment by Ukrainian officials who said that Kyiv had played a role in attacks by separatist rebels in northeastern Mali in an area called Tinzawaten. So that was the Ukrainian spokesperson, who is also a military spy agency, mentioned on a television that Malian rebels received the necessary information to carry out the attack. So in short, that was the Ukrainian spy agency, the Ukrainian spokesperson admitting that they had a part in the recent attack in Mali, and that Malian rebels received necessary information to carry out the attack. So in late July, Tuareg rebels also claimed responsibility for the losses that were inflicted on the Malian armed forces. They claimed killing at least 84 Russian Wagner mercenaries and 47 Malian soldiers. If you can remember this story, I reported on this story where Tuareg rebels killed about 84 Russian Wagner mercenaries and 47 Malian soldiers. Later on, the Ukrainian spokesperson who spoke about this and said that Ukraine played a role in both the attacks retracted his statement, of course, because there was a lot of uproar that came about after that. So they had to retract. He had to retract his statement, but the fact that with the 84 Russian Wagner mercenaries that were killed and the 47 Malian soldiers and the recent attack, so that shows that Ukraine has been involved, as he admitted. I know it might have been a slip of the tongue. Ukraine might have been involved in the terrorism, and it's not Ukraine. Ukraine might be just but a mouthpiece of a bigger person, because you know what happens when countries try to liberate themselves. What happens is they try to create disunity among the people, and the best way to create disunity and confusion and chaos among the people is by sparking insecurity, because it's hard for you to rule over a people who are worried about losing their lives. It's hard for you to, if you are told to rule over Congo at the moment, for example, Burundi, Sudan, Ethiopia, it's a hard place for you to rule, because even the people are not even listening to you. They're even more worried about not dying than who their next president is. So the best way for them to take back control of the three Sahel countries is, of course, by sparking unrest. And the easiest way for them to spark unrest is when they have things like terrorist groups. All of a sudden, they are terrorist groups. All of a sudden, they are jihadist groups attacking all over. And so that was the Sahel, the three countries calling out Ukraine for supporting terrorism. And I don't think calling out Ukraine is what they should be doing, because Ukraine already knows what it's doing is not right. So calling out diplomacy might not work at this point. You can't have diplomacy talks with somebody who killed 47 of your soldiers. Not just 47 of your soldiers, really, but somebody who admitted that the ones who have been responsible, they've been giving rebels information and support. So calling them out is not going to help. What we should be doing is the Sahel should be coming up with should be forming a united army. And then when they have a united army, operationalize it to make sure that it has enough warfare, it has enough skills, it has enough guns, it has enough men on the ground. Then in that way, it is very, very hard for Ukraine and the West and whichever forces the Sahel is fighting against to be able to defeat them because they have the advantage of the numbers. But calling them out, they already know what they're doing is not right. And of course, in diplomatic terms, I don't think diplomacy is going to work at this point because those are people who have already declared a war against you. So that was the Sahel. In DRC, a boat accident happened in the Lukeni River in Western Congo this weekend and has left at least 20 people dead and hundreds missing. So this happened in the world's richest country, and it happened because of overloading. And why were people overloaded? Because DRC is a very poor country, and when a country is poor, systems don't work. And it's a big, big challenge when systems don't work, because I'm sure in a developed country, in a country where people, in a rich country, in a country where people actually have better living conditions, nobody is going to board an overloaded boat. And so that is why I always say, like Chinua Achebe says, every problem that Africa faces is a political problem. So even in the Congolese boat accident that happened, and hundreds of people are missing, so I can assure you the deaths might go higher, because when people are missing and a boat capsized in a river and you're talking about hours ago, then that means there is a very minimal chance of them surviving. So far we have 80. The ones that have been confirmed so far is 21, is 20. There was another accident in June that saw 80 dead. There was another one in January that saw over 70 dead. So it's the same problems. And as I said, if you look at it, there's always a political angle to it. There's always a leadership deficit, because in systems that work, no boat is going to be allowed to overload people. Where are the security agencies? Where are the legislatures to make sure that such a thing does not happen? And in addition to that, in a country where people actually make money for themselves, then it's not even going to be an issue, because people will not be, systems are bound to work in countries where life is better. But the reason systems don't work in Africa is because people just survive. So the motorized wooden boat was carrying about 300 passengers and was sailing at night when it collided with a sunken barge. At least 20 bodies were found in the Tuesday search. Another 46 have been rescued and hundreds are still missing. Remember, night navigation is illegal in Congo. And the boat in itself was not supposed to carry 300 people. It's a makeshift wooden motorized boat. The accident happened on Tuesday. They've only rescued 46 people out of the 300. Points back to even the disaster preparedness that we have in Africa, like the emergency response services, if at all we have any, where you look at even the simplest of inconveniences cause the biggest of losses. So I'm still going to maintain most of the problems that we face are political problems. They are problems that are caused by having bad leadership, and rotten leadership affects downwards, because in the same Congo is where we have had, moving on, Congo, there have been more than 1,000 new monkeypox cases in a week. I am not saying that report is true. I'm just reporting it as it is. Might be propaganda, is 100% propaganda, that Congo has reported more than 1,000 new monkeypox cases in 1 week. That was last week. And the WHO released a statement, and in the statement they said that the country desperately needed vaccines, because that monkeypox was becoming a growing threat on the continent, and it declared the outbreak in Africa a global emergency. So in the statement, they said the continent is in desperate need of vaccines. So remember, the WHO is not going to tell you this, but monkeypox is spreads. This is medical. I'm not even. It's something that you can Google. It spreads through skin to skin contact, and not just skin to skin contact. It's close skin to skin contact. Not like you brushing off somebody. It's not like COVID where they would say that it can spread even through coughs and everything. So this one is, it has to be close skin to skin contact, and that is so the main way that this spreads is through sexual intercourse, and mostly it's through anal sexual intercourse. So it's more likely, if you are homosexual, you're more likely to get this disease than not. I don't think, in as much as homosexuality and they've been trying to bring about that agenda in Africa, I don't think they've been able to. The numbers are this high. 1,000 new monkeypox cases in Congo does not make sense to me. It's not possible. Right now, they are reporting that 12 of Africa's 54 countries have had cases of monkeypox reported in them. And Congo has reported the most cases so far, with at least 17,000 of them coming from Congo. I don't believe 17,000 people in Congo have monkeypox. It's a lie. In Africa, the cases are about 18,000 so far, and they're saying 541 people have died. The data is according to the African CDC, the African Center for Disease Control. The African CDC goes on to say the figures are likely an underestimate, as only 1 in 5 suspected cases in Congo are being tested for monkeypox. So they're saying the number might be 5 times lower than the actual number. Raising alarm, beating alarm bells, danger warning bells, so that people can buy the fear like they did with COVID, and they were successful in doing that. That is in DRC, where now the WHO is seeking to bring interventions, including them saying that Africa is in desperate need for vaccines. But I can tell you right here, right now, it's most likely the vaccines are most likely going to come, and they're going to put travel restrictions that they did with yellow fever, with COVID. Now, you won't be allowed to travel outside Africa without having been vaccinated against monkeypox. And our people are very ignorant, and our people love the West, and our people love the way they're going to, and so once they'll be told that for you to go to the UK, for you to go to Europe, for you to go to the West, you have to get vaccinated against monkeypox. Trust you me, most of them are going to buy it because our people are ignorant. And they're going to put the restrictions even for you, like they did with yellow fever, where I can't even travel to Tanzania, even up to date, to Uganda, without a yellow fever certificate, the yellow certificate. So now they're going to introduce a monkeypox certificate, where for me to go to Ghana, I'll have to get vaccinated against monkeypox. I don't even want to go deep into the vaccinations and the vaccines and what might be in the actual vaccines, because that's a whole new other topic, but that is what is happening. We almost come to the end of the show. Let us look at Kenya. Let's now come closer home, where Kenya is also facing financial problems like most African countries are. So the government has asked 43,000 civil servants to resign because it's seeking to cut spending. So 43,946 civil servants will retire in the next few years as part of what the government is calling austerity measures. So this is according to the government spokesperson. His name is Isaac Mwaura, who said from June 2024's payroll, public officers aged 55 and above will be required to resign because that is going to be the mandatory retirement age between now and 2029. So from that means 39,361 servants are expected to retire based on the June 2024 payroll. So the government insists that the austerity measures are for it to live within its means. And to some point, I do understand the government's perspective in this way, in that, right now, the fact is, the truth is, it's impossible, in as much as they're talking about reintroducing the finance bill, it's impossible for them to reintroduce the finance bill. That is going to be met by resistance. The young people have already shown that they're not going to allow unnecessary exploitive taxes on them. And so the government is acting in a state of desperation where they don't know where they're going to get money because, conventionally we used to government having a lot of wastages, the politicians stealing and nobody questioning them. And now for the first time they found themselves in a situation where they can't raise taxes. Their borrowing is getting scrutinized. The Bretton Woods are almost bailing out on them. And now they don't have options anymore because an addition in taxes is going to be made by resistance. So that is why it's in its act of desperation, because, for example, the teachers are going to strike. The teachers have a strike already scheduled. Even though the government disbursed 30 billion to them, the Kenya National Union of Teachers, NAT, and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Teachers, KUPPET, has announced that their nationwide strike is still set for this Monday, and will proceed. So that is why I'm saying the government is acting in desperation at the moment, with the fact that it's not even an exaggeration that the Kenyan currency might lose value in the next coming months, in the next coming weeks, because, of course, why it gained value. It never even had a solid backing to its strengthening. It was because of a certain loan they paid, and of course that ripple effect that was brought by the flooding of the Kenyan market with dollars is coming to an end, and of course now the Kenyan shilling is going to go back to its true value. So the financial problems are now aligning at the same time. The teachers are striking, the shilling is weakening, the Bretton Woods do not seem lowered, the credit score, and the taxes cannot be increased. So in desperation now, the government has to start implementing measures like the ones it implemented, firing civil servants, not hiring any more civil servants, cutting budget, doing budget cuts in an effort just to survive. It's just trying to stay afloat. With the teachers now going on strike on Monday, the doctors, the interns have not been posted. So what is happening is the mess is getting exposed. And it's not a Kenyan mess, it's an African mess. It's a mess that has accumulated over years, and us living on borrowing, us living on dependency on other people means that if we get on the wrong foot with the ones that we depend on, then our whole economy gets destabilized, and that is what has been happening in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Egypt, and that is why the Kenyan government has to fire this high number of people. Anyways, we come to the end. Job is coming up in the next few minutes with a show. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be here tomorrow on the updates. It's always a pleasure. Much love, family.